Ho ho, doctor. Well, look at you. You're in a giddy mood. Because you're on the Clark the Shark Show, baby. At 1-800-449-8255. You've just stumbled upon the most fabulous, amazing shark that you will ever find on Earth. Maybe the entire universe. For sure, for certain in the solar system, there is no better Sharky. And you won't find a better album than the Yellow Album by the KINKS. 1973, baby. The KINKS Preservation Act 1. And this is the follow-up to the Green Album, 1972. Everybody's in Showbiz, which of course is an album that I love. But 1973 would be the year that Ray Davies would start to create like this rock opera thing, like this story concept. They call it vaudeville, style shit, in the media, but it's not. It's serious, killer, good albums where Ray Davies sort of perfects this project where he's talking about Mr. Flash and Mr. Black, and he's really describing our modern times, like the 2016 election, Hillary versus Trump, or even, people like Barack Obama and Joe Biden, how the socialists, want to control you and control your health care, raise your rent, dangle little carrots, so you vote for them. And, everyone's doing it on all sides. And of course, here on the Clark the Shark Show, we are observant. And so too is Mr. Ray Davies with these two amazing, brilliant concept albums back in the 1970s. Now, critics like to point out that these two albums, actually these mini albums, beginning with Muswell Hillbillies and running up to soap opera, probably definitely through Schoolboys in Disgrace, these albums didn't sell well. So a lot of people are like, well, they must not be very good albums, which of course is not the case. These are the KINKS golden period albums. They are the best KINKS albums. They are the hamburger in the bun, people. Arthur, 1969 was great. And Lola, that album, 1970, you can't deny it. Brilliant. And I even love Percy, the little album in 1971 that is so forgotten. But of course, Muswell Hillbillies is just a classic that every classic rocker knows about and loves by the KINKS. But not much is really mentioned about the Green Album moving forward. People start talking about the KINKS again because Schoolboys in Disgrace 1975 is such a great album. And that would be the final RCA album for the KINKS. Of course, Clive Davis would sign them over at Arista Records. And then in 1977, they did Sleepwalker, which is just an amazing, incredible album. 1976, there was no KINKS studio album. Very unusual because the KINKS always have albums every year, at least back in the day. And to see them without a record deal was scary, but of course they would find one. And Clive Davis, I hope he rewarded the KINKS with a big fat advance, and that wasn't recoupable. Knowing Clive Davis, he probably didn't, but I don't know. But I know that RCA gave the KINKS a bunch of money in like 1971, where they built Conch Studios over there, and the Kinks and Ray had their own studio to work with, and that was awesome. And in that studio, I believe they recorded this album, Preservation Act 1, the Yellow Album by the Kinks, 1973. Now, let's frame 1973. The Who, Quadrophenia, Led Zeppelin, Houses of the Holy, and the Stones, baby, put out Goat's Head Soup, which is an underrated album, but a lot of Rolling Stones fans like me, we know that Goat's Head Soup is awesome. Just like the album after it, It's Only Rock and Roll. They're both great albums. Mick Taylor, you know, his contribution alone, those are awesome. I don't know who comes up with this thing that those are bad. You could make a case argument that Black and Blue might be bad, but certainly not those two albums before it. No way. And not this album either. The Kinks, Preservation Act 1. For this album is loaded, people, with great material. This is a 5-star album. I don't really care what the reviews say, you know. I mean, oh God, it gets 2.5 and 3, but that's irrelevant. Now, the Morning Song, killer, dude, love it, you know, awesome. Great way to start things out. The girls, at this time period with the Kinks, they had the girl backup singers, and they are on this album, and of course they're on Preservation 2, the Purple Double album, which is so awesome. That really is the Kinks' Quadrophenia. It is so incredible. Preservation Act 2, one of the greatest albums ever recorded in rock and roll. But Preservation 1, this one, just killer. Daylight's killer, man. Love it. Love it. You know, of course, the song by Yes maybe borrows from this, or this borrows from that. No worries. Come on, it's Ray. He's just like Lennon and McCartney, you know, he pinches here and there. We all do. Look at me, Clark the Shark. I've gotten letters, you know, from Ted Nugent about Ben is dead. And I've gotten letters like, you know, for manipulation from like Nirvana. And, you know, Vimeo sent me this letter. And I'm like, dude, you guys, that song was recorded a year before Nevermind. Clark the Shark, everyone knows in the South Bay. Sharky, you know, the reason he looks like that is because of the Minutemen and a noise agency. And he wanted to be like those. I didn't even know who Kurt was in early 1991. You know, just vaguely from Flipside, but believe me, Sharky's an original in the South Bay. They all know it. Now, Sweet Lady Genevieve, one of the greatest Kinks songs. Killer. Just awesome. Gotta love that song. The atmosphere here, you know, Dave Davies, Ray Davies, the guitar, just the feeling of this album. It just feels good to listen to this. And there's a change in the weather. To me, that's one of the greatest Kinks songs also. Very much melodic, builds on a progression. I love that. And of course, Where Are They Now? Just awesome. One of my favorite Kinks songs. Killer Ray Davies. You know, where he's talking about like, where are the toy boys and, you know, all the kids down on Carnaby Street from 64 and 65, and where did all the British insanity go? Where are they now? I love that song. I absolutely love it. And one of the survivors, one of the greatest Kinks songs, man, fucking killer. Everyone loves that song. One of the survivors, very melodic. He's one of the survivors. You know, Johnny Thunder. Fucking killer, dude. I mean, you're getting into some great shit on this album here. I don't care if it's sold, did sell, didn't sell. That's irrelevant, baby. I review albums for how good they are. And this album is meat and potatoes solid good, baby. And one of the survivors is certainly one of the reasons why this is a great Kinks album. And it's a setup for Preservation Act 2, 1974. What an album. Cricket's Killer, of course. Awesome. Love it, you know. I love the little storytelling by Ray. You know, Cricket, it's very British. Ray is so British. He's such a British eccentric, and yet he's not eccentric. He's serious, and he's funny, and he's irreverent, and he's like a British Frank Zappa, you know. He's funnier than Frank Zappa, though. He's much more profound than either Pete Townsend or Frank Zappa, and Cricket really proves it. You gotta love that song. Now, one of the greatest Kinks songs ever, of course, is Money and Corruption, I Am Your Man, which, of course, really gets into the story of Mr. Flash, Mr. Black, and the concept that is building here on this first album, which, of course, is going to build into the amazing next album, which is a double album, that Purple album from 1974, which is just so killer, where Ray is wearing the suit. And, you know, Money and Corruption, like, I visualize a day where we can all be free. You know, like everyone will have a color TV and a stereo, and the government will just give it to us, and, you know, we'll all be equal. There'll be no more no more competition. And the government, you know, Mr. Flash or Mr. Black or whoever will take care of us from the cradle to grave, you know, and the union man and, you know, just the corrupt boss man. He can't get to you, all that money and corruption. Ray knew about this stuff 40, 50 years ago, man. He's way ahead of his time. He really is the first. And, of course, here comes Flash. You know, he'll crush you. He'll destroy you. Here comes Flash. Great song. Sitting in the Midday Sun, one of those awesome Kinks songs. It goes back to the Green album and, you know, stuff like Supersonic Rocket Ship and stuff like that. I love Sitting in the Midday Sun. Just a killer 1970s sounding song by Ray. Love it. It's a hit song, you guys. Now, what this album lacks is a monster hit like Celluloid Heroes, which, of course, is on the album before this from 1972. But there's something very solid about all these songs where it's almost like this album does not need a big hit because this whole album seems like a hit. And when you listen to Money and Corruption, I Am Your Man a few times, you're going to love that song. It's because it describes the society of 2023 right now, the way Joe Biden and the Democrats are flooding in all these people and raising our rent, you know, to $3,000 a month. And then you find out it's really the Republicans and Donald Trump who are really doing it. But the Democrats aren't doing anything to stop it. They're just right there walking hand in hand with the Republicans. You know, the Republicans like the high rent and the cheap labor, and so do the Democrats, but the Democrats will take it a step further. They like the high taxes so they can just fuck us all over and screw us all. And Money and Corruption, I Am Your Man, baby. It really talks about it. And, of course, you know, after just feeling all stressed out, you just want to sit in the midday sun. But Demolition, oh, man. The final song on the album is one of the Kinks' greatest songs because it's just talking about how, you know, we're just going to tear it down. Even if it's all good, it passes inspection, it has no mold, and it's great. We're just going to bring it all down anyway. Ray's like, oh, just demolition, just demo it and build another piece of shit building that we don't need. On the Clark the Shark Show at 1-800-449-8255. But you know what? We need every building desperately now, you guys, because the money and corruption here in 2023. Ray Davies is really talking about it in 1973 on the Yellow Album. the Kinks Preservation Act 1, where he is setting us up for Preservation Act 2, which is one of the most amazing albums ever recorded by any band, a double album that's just incredible. But this album really does set things up nicely. And whether it's sold or, whether, that people it's popular, I don't give a flying fuck. I love this album because it tells the truth. And I love Ray Davies, this man right here, Ray. And here he's dressed up as, Mr. Flash or Mr. Black. And of course the band, the Kinks, and all the girls and the horns and everybody who contributed to just this amazing album. I love these 3 discs, Preservation 1, and then Act 2, of course, which is a double album. All 3 tell just an amazing story. And maybe if Ray gets a little convoluted and confused himself, Ray Davies had a nervous breakdown right here in this period. And I don't think he really realized just what he was really talking about and how he was really nailing things. But I think me, Clark the Shark, on my blogs and my, wherever I write, wherever you can read my shit, I nail it even better than Ray because, I'm talking about it more in depth, how these unions and the Democrats just screw us and how the Republicans pretend, they're low taxes and they are your friend. The Republicans are like, I am your man, you guys. But you know what? I don't see them cutting rent or cutting taxes lately. And when they do, they don't make the tax cuts permanent. Paul Ryan and Trump and those guys, they leave it wide open so Joe Biden and Hillary and Obama or whoever, Gavin Newsom, can come along and raise the rent, raise the taxes, and just screw us all. But I think Ray Davies here with Preservation Act 1, this yellow album, this beautiful yellow album from 1973, Ray was really trying to capture it, sell it, and bottle it, baby. And he did right here. I love this album, but of course the next album I love even more. Right here on the Clark the Shark show, I'm in the middle of the Kinks' golden era. Just the amazing albums on RCA Records. Now, RCA dropped the Kinks, but even they have to, in the back offices, they have to whisper to themselves, Ray's a genius, and these albums are artistic achievements. Just like Harry Nilsson, just like, a lot of stuff on RCA. Maybe it didn't sell a lot, but they were an outlet for important artists who were creative and important, artistic, like Ray Davies, and telling an important story. Important storytellers. That's who Ray Davies was and still is to this day. And you heard it from me, Clark the Shark. That's right. I'm Clark the Shark on the golden EIB Sharkerphone. It's not a microphone. It is not a mere microphone, people. It is a golden EIB Sharkerphone because I'm talking about this golden yellow 1973 album, Preservation Act 1. What an album this is. It is amazing. Now, when it comes to the Kinks, you guys can't listen to the other reviewers on YouTube or Vimeo or anywhere worldwide. You have to go to Clark the Shark because I bought all these vinyls down at the Rhodium or Go Boy Records down in Redondo Beach, or Zed Records or Peanut Records in Lomita. Clark the Shark would seek out and find great albums. And I found no greater one than this one right here by Ray Davies. This atmospheric guitar, keyboards, beautiful album, man. I love the Kinks. I love all the guys in the band. I got to talk about this drummer too, man. He is amazing, Mick Avery. And of course, the 2 Johns, John Gosling and the other John. Man, these 2 guys contribute so much to the Kinks. Pete Keefe, the original bassist, he quit at a bad time. Maybe financially he quit at a good time, but artistically and creatively, he quit the band at a bad time because the Kinks were going into their golden period, people. And everybody contributes, man. Everybody, all these guys matter in this band. Let me tell you, all 5 of them. And then the other people with the horns, Lori Brown, all of them, man. The girls. I think Ray's wife sings, on some of these. And, of course, Dave Davies, he puts his stamp all over this and all the Kinks' great albums. I love John Dalton, I love them all, man. Love it. The Kinks on Arthur, that was great, man. But the evolution where they go from that all the way to these 2 albums, Act 1 and Act 2, the Kinks do not ever get better than this, you guys. Of course, they would get more commercial, when they got with Clive Davis. And, of course, Schoolboys in Disgrace was a demo the Kinks were doing, for other record labels, showing, this is what we can really do. And Clive Davis scooped them up, and they went over to Arista, and they put out some amazing albums. But those are commercial kind of arena rock albums. I love these albums on RCA much more, because these are meat and potatoes. These are solid artistic storytelling albums. Ray Davies is always awesome, you guys. And he's awesome on those arena albums at Arista with Clive Davis. But on RCA in the 70s, Harry Nilsson and just all the great artists that were on RCA. Elvis was on RCA too. But I love these albums, you guys. I love Muswell Hillbillies, the Green Album, these 2, and Soap Opera, which I'm going to review. I love that one too, you guys. To me, it's very special. And I don't care about having friends or sitting in a room and we're all getting stoned and drinking beers. I listen to music all alone by myself. And that's how I recommend you listen to music too. Don't worry about other people's opinion. You got to love music all alone when you're sitting in a hot bathtub and you're cranking it up and you're listening to the Kinks, all their great albums. And if you're born in 2001 and you're 22 right now in 2023, I want you to buy the Kinks. Get into this band. Don't get into the 90s and all that crap. That's rubbish. Get into Ray Davies, man. Mainly get into Ray Davies. You can get into Frank Zappa and The Who, the Beatles and all that, of course. But my number 1 is Ray Davies. I want you to listen to all these albums and dissect them and listen to them over and over and buy them at Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, and support Ray Davies. Write him a letter and write emails to Ray Davies and Dave Davies and tell them they're great, because they're getting old, you guys, and they're not going to be around much longer. And I hope me, Clark the Shark, I'll be around another 25, 30 years. Right here on the Clark the Shark Show, where you can listen to me every day and have fun and hear about great albums, you guys, like the Kinks, Preservation Act 1, 1973. I'm Clark the Shark, and you just heard the gospel, the word, the testimony, the only review of the Kinks you will ever need of this incredible album. And you heard it right here from a Sharky. 1-800-449-8255. And I'm out of here, people. Peace.